Good evening, folks. This is Diamond with the Oppenheimer Ranch Project, bringing you a grand solar minimum update on Friday, January 26th, 9:03 p.m. Mountain Time, 2018. You're looking at the polar vortex for February dipping into northeastern North America. And I want to draw your attention to the white arrow. This small area here, up here in Alaska, that they're pointing at here. That little area. Well, it's about to get real cold again because that little area is the global warming they're talking about in this article here. Less Arctic ice has been linked to more winter cold snaps, and that's a boom. Sounds like Al Gore wrote that article. Extreme position of jet stream means more extreme weather. Grand solar minimum much? Because the world is getting warmer, it's getting colder too. Let's read that again. Because the world is getting warmer, it's getting colder too. And that's true, and that's a boom. Very strange one. But climate is a system. One place it gets cold, here it has to get warm somewhere else. It has to relegate the thermodynamic principles. Now, the system as a whole can slowly cool, which it is. The system as a whole is cooling. Look at the proxy date, let's say central England temperature from 1659 to present. And the yearly average sunspots from the same time frame, we can clearly see that the sun is controlling the climate here. As the solar activity diminished, the temperature diminished during the Maunder minimum. Here in the Dalton minimum, boom. Again in the Centennial minimum. And now we are descending into the Eddy minimum. And the central England temperatures will be dropping with us. Crazy as that sounds, there's an explanation in the northernmost corner of the planet, according to this article. This spot here is causing all the global cooling. That spot is causing all of the global cooling, according to this article, which we can probably say is nonsense. Can you guess how much snow fell this week in the Mount Baker ski area? This is a picture from yesterday. We'll get to the snow water equivalents. But what's been a fabulous winter season for the Mount Baker ski area got even better as more than 100 inches of snow fell this week. Holy cow. It's been crazy. It's global warming and it's awesome. Boom. He doesn't even know where to put his stick. It's so hot out. So Mount Baker getting crushed up here. Let's go to the Westel Snowtel current snow water equivalents of January 22nd. Now, there's a huge storm hitting right now, dumping up to 4 feet of snow, so it's going to add to these numbers. But what I want to draw your attention to is a line here separating a drought zone in the southwest to a massive surplus up here to the north. Surplus. And here we have a drought in the south. But that should end as we go through the extra long winter as the snow will continue into May. 2 feet of mountain snow, heavy rain Sunday could cause flooding in the northwest. 2 feet. I'm going to show you the model. It's showing 44.6 inches. That is 4 feet. Just under. And that's happening here, 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 where these maroon dots are showing up in this area of Washington, and probably the deepest snow, I'm going to say 5 feet up here in British Columbia. And that is just for the next 48 hours. 5 feet in 48 hours. That's a lot of snow. Let's check out Big Sky, Montana. That's going to get hit probably on the 27th with more snow. They're at record levels. 136% of average on the 22nd. Heads up, Big Sky. Bitter cold and snow could return to upstate New York as a result of this storm as it moves across the country just in time for Punxsutawney Phil and Groundhog Day. Bitter cold air could return to upstate New York by next weekend, David Lassman says. A blast of bittery cold air could reach upstate New York just in time for groundhogs to see or not see their shadow. Polar vortex much? China upgrades its snow warning to second highest cold wave alert on highest level. China's National Meteorological Center has upgraded its snow warning to orange, the second highest level on Thursday, January 25th, 2018, as heavy snow continues affecting China's central and eastern regions. A blue alert for cold remains in effect. Thank you, watchers. You get links to all this, guys. The links are down here in the bottom left under the video, under Oppenheimer Ranch. It says show more. Click on it. If you're on a phone, it's a down arrow that looks like a V pointing down. Morocco, thousands in need of extreme emergency relief as extreme cold and heavy snow batter communities in the central Atlas region. January 26, heavy snow and unusual extreme cold weather in January has cut off thousands from major transport routes in Morocco's high and middle Atlas regions, raising the risk of food shortages and dangerous living conditions for the affected communities. The combination of heavy snow and temperatures dropping as low as -5°C has caused water supply shortages, power outages, lack of heating, damage to homes as food supplies dwindle. Farmers have reported loss of livestock, prompting a surge in food prices. All because of that little spot in Alaska that's warming. Cold weather kills 15 in the Kyrgyz capital in January. And the animals are freezing there. I'm sure you guys saw that article today. This is Bishkek. The cold winter weather has caused the deaths of 15 homeless people in the Kyrgyz capital this month. Local authorities reported. They were found to have died of hypothermia. But that's what happens when it's cold. You die of hypothermia. For the third year in a row, guys, I'll leave you links to this Twitter feed. There is snow in the desert again of Saudi Arabia. And that's boom. As predicted, it snowed again for the third time in a year. And now it's becoming a regular tourist attraction. Lots of good pictures here coming out of Saudi Arabia. Look at the thumbs up on these dudes. Allahu Akbar. And so they're totally stoked. This looks like some good chestnut. Look at this wood. That's a hardwood there. Looks like black walnut. They know what to burn. Probably smoking a little hashish. So snowing in the desert once again. Third winter in a row. And that's a boom. The list goes on. This is coming out today from the media center. Storms, devastating floods, heat waves, and cold snaps. Extreme weather in Vietnam is facing increasingly extreme weather events. Life in rural areas is hard. People are having to adapt 2030 to the changing conditions. I hope you caught that. We got a lot to go through. And this is just today. Hail damages cars in Eppalock, that's north of Melbourne in Australia, where they're burning up. They're burning up and their cars are getting ruined all over Australia in just the last month. Overnight hail in Eppalock has damaged cars and forced campers to end their weekends early. Oh, shucks. Worst drought in over a century. Severe water crisis continues in South Africa. You're looking at the biggest dam supplying millions of people, and it is dry. Southern provinces of South Africa are still under their worst drought in over a century. I wonder what this 100-year cycle could be that shows up all the time with a big blue arrow on my charts. Well, the worst drought in the century was slightly alleviated when a river of 9 foot of hail in Sutherland, north of the area that is dry, created a very strange phenomenon called a hail river. I'll leave you links to this. Huge hail accumulations in Sutherland, South Africa on January 21st. Let's let that parse up. 81,000 people now evacuated from Mayon as it continues to erupt lava today. On the multi-screen live stream, Yuki Z has got footage of it, so go check that out there. Today, January 26, 2018, the total number of people evacuated, according to the Department of Welfare, has reached 81,618, and for good measure. Let's see if we can come over and see some of this river of hail. There it is, folks. The hottest place on Earth right now. There's 5 feet of hail. Watch this hail shelf melt off. It's pretty nice. Oh, yes. Action shot. Let's go back to it. Hail in the desert. Much needed water. Hopefully that's flowing into that dam area. But we are seeing some historic hailstorms only on the increase. Dukono today and Sabancaya erupting as we're making the video. We have intermittent ash from Sabancaya, continuous volcanic ash emissions from Dukono. In the last 36 hours, Popo has been continuously erupting. If you go to UKZ, you can see that. Dukono, Reventator, Mayon, like we said, was flowing out lava multiple times today. I was checking it out. So that's a heads up. Cosmic ray flux on the increase. And this is the coming from Master Shannon, bringing us this Japanese reporting. This is a military guy that was on that mountain, Shirane, when it erupted at the ski resort doing exercises. Now, he jumped on someone and saved their lives. He jumped on someone to save their life, and he died. This is the guy that died, so he's a hero, and he saved his private. Now, what we're getting from this footage is amazing new cinder cone coverage. We're going to be seeing the top of Shirane and where the new eruptions occurred. Oh, where is that? There it is. It's right here. Let that parse up. See what King 5 has to say. Last major Washington earthquake tsunami was 318 years ago today. The last time the Cascadia subduction zone caused a major earthquake and tsunami was exactly in 1700, causing a major tsunami to wash across the Pacific to the other side of the globe. Right here at this cold part in the Mons Minimum in England, the Cascadia faulted. And we have typically associated with these dips, large volcanic eruptions and earthquakes. So as we go into this dip of the eddy minimum, we are expecting large earthquakes and eruptions to decimate the planet. So that's a heads up on the historic tsunami. So let's take a look at the cinder cones that have formed, the new holes in Shirane. This is amazing footage. You can see the old caldera holes here from the old cinder cone activity. And here's old volcanic that's a new vent there forming. So those are the new vents underneath this volcano. They've moved slightly south, and there's a full straight line of them. Boom, 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 boom. Here we can see them again. This is the old view where there were 2 active holes. Now there's a whole plethora of new holes. So this volcano is waking up. We have the satellite imagery. Thank you to Master Shannon, and you will get links to it. Aftershock still happening off the Kodiak, Alaska area in abundance, as expected. This is a really good textbook example of aftershock activity after a major quake on a subduction zone. So this should be used in classrooms around the world, and they should be looking at this right now, be learning a lot about it. You can also see how there's an uptick in intercratonic activity. Because of the major displacement that happened in this subduction zone, things are going to shift. We had that shifting out here in the Cascadia transform, 5.8 and a 5.0. It's a heads up. See what if anything else is interesting is occurring before this video gets a little too long. Normal activity here in the moderate range. Space weather is quiet and dropping off. We should see an uptick in earthquakes over the next 24 hours. Let's talk about total solar irradiance. When you go to look for the information, if you guys ever search for it, you're going to see graphs like this that come in different spectral arrays. A lot of you have been complaining that the total solar irradiance you see sometimes says 1366, and sometimes it says 1361, which is way down here off the graph. So we're going to have a little lesson on total solar irradiance tonight. These are different data sets, the colors from different satellites, and here you can see the named areas, HF, ACR, MM1, etc., Virgo. I'll give you links to all this. Now, it's called the solar constant, and it's a construction of a composite total solar irradiance time series. That's what they're doing. And the older information was normalized to 1366. And the newer stuff, 1361. So you can see here the different data sets and the different total solar irradiance they assign them. When they make a composite, they normalize the data sets so that you can make sense of the data. Let's come look at the top graph here, which goes to today. And you can see this gray baseline above the hash line. Back in 1985, the solar minimum at this arbitrary 1366 hit that line. And then in 1995, it went below the line to the hash line. And then at the solar minimum in 2010, it went below the hash line. And now at the eddy minimum and the drop down that we're in now, we're 3 years ahead of the minimum. And we're already below the hash line. That means we've had a total drop in almost 2 full units in watts per square meter in 30 years. And we should see the same equivalent in the next 10 years. And the next equivalent in the next 5 years. So it's an exponential effect where you can see it dropping off exponentially now. I also want you to notice the tight nature of the curves here, and then they flatten out and get very long. These solar cycles are lengthening. So this solar minimum could extend all the way out here to 2021 as it drops down below the hash line, causing the planet to cool. I'll leave you links to that, and also Greg's TSI page, which gives you a very good 3-dimensional picture of all the data sets. Here's the herb data, the ACRIM1, here's SOVA2 in blue, Virgo in tan. Here's the TIM satellite, the new one, which starts just recently, and it doesn't give us any more data than a single cycle. So it's really useless unless we overlay it with 1, 2, 3 other data sets so we can at least see through several cycles. Because without doing that, you can't see a diminishment in the solar activity. I'll leave you links to all that. It even talks about planetary transition observations here at this website. There's even some TSI movies and a lot of good graphics on here. This is a wonderful depiction of what's happening with the data. Dropping down. So, you'll get links to Tim's page, which is totally badass, which has all of the data sources. Greg Kopp's TSI page, and I'll leave you links to that, and there it is again. And here is the best picture of the composite total solar irradiance that we have currently. And they've adjusted it to the 1361 level. And you can see that we're just dropping below 1361 now. And the prediction is, in this minimum, 1360.5. In this minimum, we should be down at 1360. And we'll be watching it very tightly because we have the data. And you do too. But one more thing before we finish here. This is the Concentrating Solar Resources Annual, Direct Normal, Total Sun on the surface of North America. And with increased cosmic ray flux and cloud nucleation and only 6 minutes of sun in Siberia, you can imagine the rest of the globe is also going to experience a diminishment in solar output at the surface. So if we need to be growing food in the future, we don't need to be living in any area that already has a diminishment in sun. So if you're in this tan area or this olive drab area, you might want to consider secondary lighting, auxiliary lighting, LED lighting for growing food, because it'll be necessary. Those of you that live in the southwest here in the dark red area, you'll notice that you have more sun than even Hawaii. And Alaska is a very low sun area. So we might get away with natural sunlight here for several decades moving forward because we already have too much sun where I am. We actually have to shade the sun in the summer to grow food. It gets so hot that things can wither and die because of the temperature fluctuation from 50 degrees to 114. So I'll leave you links to this map, and it will help you maybe determine on what your growing strategy is for where you're going to be. One more interesting scientific note before we leave on a boom is to look up Wednesday for a glimpse of a super blue red moon kicked off by a total lunar eclipse. And that is a crazy boom. It would be hard for any astronomical event to upstage last summer's solar eclipse, but a super blue red moon total lunar eclipse is pretty darn close. On Wednesday, all but one day, although not at the same time, the moon will be full, super, red, blue, and totally eclipsed. And that's totally fluxed up. And that's a boom. I'll leave you links to the article. Guys, I hope you got something out of the video. Let's end on the graphic. It's very clear that total solar irradiance and the sun is directly connected to the surface temperature in the northern hemisphere on this graph. If you've seen our past videos, it's a global effect because when we started the video, if it gets cold in one spot, it has to get warm in another. And when it rains in one place, it has to be horribly dry in another. So these extreme climate fluxes are to be expected and have been predicted for years as we increase the descent into the grand solar minimum. Expect more drought, extreme drought in areas, as well as extreme flooding and deluge in areas that have never seen that. Just like we saw today, flooding everywhere globally. There's freezing everywhere in 100 and 200 year cyclic fashions globally. It snowed again in the desert in Saudi Arabia, and that's a heads up. We're reporting on it, and you're learning about it, and we're doing it together. Proper prior planning prevents piss-poor performance in these times of change, and times are changing. Be safe, everybody.